This is my project on the Civil War. I am Josh. Important names to remember for this presentation. Ulysses S. Grant was the pretty much commander general for um, the Union States, which was the northern states. Robert E. Lee was the pretty much commander general for the southern states, also known as the Confederacy. And Abraham Lincoln was the one that was elected president and started the whole war pretty much. The Union States. So the Union States were also known as the Northern States, which, given by the name, was made up of the states in the northern part of the United States of America. The North had an industrial economy, so mostly factories and cities, and they didn't have slaves. They wanted to abolish it, actually. And in the war, they fought against it, and the South didn't like that. The North wanted to have higher taxes, and the South was against that. Um, the Union States at the time was mostly Republican voters. All their like government officials was mostly Republican, and majority of the North didn't really care much for religion, unlike the South.
Yeah.
And this was like the first national flag they had. This was after they added more states. This was the second one. They added more states again, and again they added more states. So they just kept adding more stars and changing the design of the stars in the pattern. Unlike the South, they had a million different flags. The Southern states. The Confederate States of America, also known as the Southern States, and given by the name, they were the states that made up the southern part of the United States. The southern economy was more farmland and, country. So the Southerners had slaves working these farms so that they didn't have to. And that's part of the reason that they got into it with the North. But most of these farms that they had were cotton and tobacco farms. They had other farms as well, but that was most common because it made the most money. And the Southerners, again, believed that slavery was acceptable, unlike the Northerners. The Southerners were mostly Democratic at the time, and they also had a lot of religious beliefs. And this was the first flag they had. Then they decided to change it to this one, and then they didn't like that one, so they wanted to do this one, which is white background with the Southern Cross in the top corner because they were a bunch of racists and wanted a white flag. Then after a while, they realized that kind of looks like, oh no, we're surrendering. So they added a red stripe at the end of it, and a couple weeks after they changed it to this one, they lost. The election of Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was a presidential candidate. He won the election of 1860. This was what triggered the South and caused the war to happen because he was from the North and worked to abolish slavery, which he ended up doing and was then later killed by a Southern Democratic voting actor, John Wilkes Booth, which killed him because he abolished slavery. And in conclusion, at the end of the war, General Robert E. Lee surrendered to General Ulysses S. Grant on April 9th, 1965, at a courthouse in Virginia. Ulysses S. Grant later went on to become president of the United States in 1969. And, well, for General Robert E. Lee, he got a cool car named after him. Those are my sources. There's more that I gotta add in there. Thank you for watching. Just kidding, they didn't have tanks back then. Any questions?